What if I told you that everything you've ever wanted, everything you've ever dreamed of, was being blocked by just two simple words? Well, that's the secret of a man who looked at every single obstacle, every no, and every you can't, and somehow turned it all into a multi-billion-dollar empire. Today, we are unlocking the powerful, simple, and honestly life-changing mindset of Sir Richard Branson. So let's get right into his secret. Okay, so we all have these big dreams, right? But what stops us? You know what it is. It's usually hesitation, it's doubt, that fear of the unknown. Well, Richard Branson faced more obstacles than pretty much anyone, and it all started with the fact that for him, school was a complete and total nightmare. See, he was severely dyslexic, and this was back at a time when nobody really understood it. So while he was struggling just to read and write, his teachers, they just saw a lazy troublemaker. His headmaster literally told him he'd either end up in prison or become a millionaire. But what everyone saw as his biggest weakness, he was about to turn into his greatest weapon. And believe it or not, it all started in a school phone booth. And this is where the whole story begins. Not in some fancy boardroom, not with a huge investment, but in a school phone booth. At just 15 years old, Branson decided he was going to start a revolution. He had this massive idea: create a national magazine for students, run entirely by students to give them a voice against the war. The problem? He had zero money, zero experience, and literally everyone, from his teachers to his own friends, told him he was absolutely out of his mind and was going to fail spectacularly. So, what did he do? He just completely ignored all the doubters. He started making calls to potential advertisers from that school payphone. He actually convinced his mom to pitch in £4 just to cover postage for letters. He got his friends to start writing articles. You see, the real lesson here wasn't just in what he did, but in how he did it. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for a perfect plan. He just started. And what was the result of that one simple decision to just start? 50,000. That's how many copies were printed for the very first issue of Student Magazine. And get this, it was fully funded by the ads he sold himself from that tiny phone booth. He didn't just prove them wrong, he launched his entire career right then and there. Hitting that button is just one small action, right? And that is the whole point, because he applied that exact same mindset years later when the stakes weren't just about a magazine. They were about life and death. All right, let's fast forward a few years. Branson's empire is growing, and so are his ambitions. He's now attempting to break the world record for the fastest boat crossing of the Atlantic Ocean. His boat, the Virgin Atlantic Challenger, is just tearing through the waves. And then, absolute disaster strikes. They were just hours away from the finish line in England, completely dominating the record. But they ran straight into a furious monster storm. The waves were colossal, and a fatal blow struck the hull of the boat. That was the desperate call that came crackling over the radio. They were sinking, and fast, in the dead of night, in the middle of the freezing, violent Atlantic Ocean. For most people, this is the end of the story. Failure. Full stop. But Richard Branson doesn't do full stops. As the boat was literally going under, he was on the radio calmly coordinating the rescue of his entire crew. And the very moment they were all safe, what was the first thing on his mind? Trying again. He saw this catastrophic failure not as a stop sign, but as the most valuable lesson he could ever possibly learn. And guess what? He did it. He came back with a new boat and absolutely shattered the world record. This right here proves that his success isn't just about luck or daring stunts. It's a rule. It's a simple code that he lives by in everything he does. And now we're going to reveal exactly what that rule is. So we've seen it with a student magazine, we've seen it with a sinking ship. From Virgin Records to Virgin Atlantic to even Virgin Galactic, there is one simple, powerful idea connecting every single risk he has ever taken. What is the secret that separates the people who dream from the people who actually do? Well, it's those two words that have been the engine behind his entire life. That's it. That's the secret. Not think about it. Not plan for it. Not wait for the perfect moment. Just do it. This entire philosophy, this whole empire, boils down to that one simple command. And this breaks down into a code for living. But look closer at this. This isn't just a list of motivational phrases you'd see on a poster. This is a battle plan for taking action. Believe you can do it. Set a clear goal. Have that unwavering faith in yourself. Absolutely refuse to surrender. And when you fail, because you will fail, you just try again. So how can you actually use this in your own life? You know, this idea isn't even new. It's an ancient truth that the philosopher Plato understood thousands of years ago, and it's something that Branson has built his entire life on today. It's not the 10th step, or the final step that matters most. It is the first one. You don't need a perfect business plan. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't need all the resources in the world. You just need to take that first step. So here's how you can do that right now. Okay, here is how you make this real. Forget about the finish line for a second. What's that one thing you've been dreaming about doing? Now, what is the absolute smallest, tiniest, least intimidating first step you could possibly take? Is it sending one email, making one call, writing one paragraph? Whatever it is, just do that today. That's how empires are built. That's how records are broken. And that is how you change your life. I'm serious. What is it? Drop it in the comments below to make it real, and then go make it happen. If this fired you up, share it with someone who needs to hear this simple, powerful message. Now go take that first step.